Today we're going to try Chipotle's newest protein item, the Garlic Guajillo Steak. Now I got a little piece here to kind of show it off a little bit. A little disappointed in the portions they get. You can see here, you can't really see because it's kind of covered up in sour cream, but I feel like Chipotle has got a little bit more chintzy lately, especially considering the price of this Garlic Guajillo Steak, which is more than every other protein option on the menu. Here's my receipt. See if that's readable. There you go. $12.60 I paid for a bowl. So with tax it was $13.64 with tax over here in Texas. And it's a little steep, I must say, considering a regular steak bowl is like $10.85, I believe, and that's the same price as barbacoa, which is the best thing at Chipotle. Now I apologize if the camera is kind of shaking a little bit. It's like the place I put it in the car. I still haven't figured out where to put the camera in this car necessarily. So back to the steak. The question really is it worth the extra $2 to get this over barbacoa? That's the question in my mind, or whatever other protein you usually get. Now they did the pollo asado chicken, which was also more money than the regular chicken, but it wasn't quite as much more money, and I think it was like in the $11 range. It was not quite as expensive as this. I feel like it just feels like a little bit of a rip when you know they have steak, regular steak, and it's $2 cheaper, and the only thing different really is the seasoning. Again, it might be a different cut of steak, but I don't know if the quality's any better or not. And I don't think it's going to be a $2 difference for what essentially is a seasoning and maybe a different cut of meat. I'm not sure. The pollo asado was great. I love that. I think it's better than the regular chicken. I don't really like Chipotle's regular chicken too much. They took that away, of course, because it's got to be a limited thing, just like this Garlic Guajillo steak has got to be a limited thing. But you know what, let's try it. You know, I might be just complaining a little bit too much. Maybe it is worth it. Maybe I'm going to try this and it's the best thing I've ever had. Who knows? So I've just got a simple bowl here with white rice, pinto beans, lettuce, sour cream, cheese, and the steak. So let's just try to get a little bit of everything. Kind of dropped it. So my bowl is done. I ate it all. It was good. It was solid. But I do have a few issues with it, and one of them is one of the issues I also have with their steak, which is why I don't order it. Besides the fact that I don't really like the seasoning on it too much, it's an issue with Chipotle in general where their steak meat, and including this, so I'm assuming that they're the same cut, their steak meat is just not trimmed. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a purposeful thing on their part to kind of make it seem like, hey, this is real steak meat, so it's just, you know, you're gonna get gristle and fat, that's just the way it is. Or it's more of a thing where they just don't want to trim the steak because it's extra work to do that. But every time I get steak at Chipotle, I always get tons and tons of gristle and just giant fat pockets that are inedible that you have to just toss. This time I got 2 steak pieces, you know, and there's only like 10 or 11 steak pieces because they don't give you a lot. And 2 of them are pretty much worthless because there's just giant, you know, globs of uncooked fat, which is, you can't eat. I mean, I guess you could technically eat, but why would you? And, you know, lots of gristly little parts that you have to kind of like peel off. Now, I know that's inherent with steak. I don't have a problem with that necessarily if I'm at like a steakhouse or something and I'm ordering a steak. Obviously, there's going to be some in the steak. My issue is more with the way Chipotle operates compared to Mexican restaurants, or even like hole-in-the-wall places. I've been to plenty of Mexican food trucks and hole-in-the-wall places. You get the carne asada burritos or tacos or whatever, and you never run into this issue. I've maybe once or twice ran into this issue at a place like that because they trim their beef and before they cook it or after they cook it, I don't know. But they trim it and you only ever get the good stuff. You never really get any of these giant fat globs and gristly meat. They trim it off. And Chipotle just doesn't do it. And I guess I know why, because it saves them money, but it makes me never really want to order the steak. Again, it's not a huge deal, and for most people it might not even be a problem, but I feel like it just feels like a losing proposition to me. I feel like I'm losing money. It's probably a bad mental thing for me, but I feel like when I take this piece of steak and I have to toss it because it's terrible, that I feel like I just lost like 50 cents of this bowl that I just paid $12.60 for. You know, again, maybe that's a bad way to think, but that's where my mind goes. It's just annoying. It's an inconvenience. I don't like it, and especially when you can get the barbacoa, which never has this issue and does taste a little bit better. Now back to the actual flavor of the Garlic Guajillo steak. it's good. It's got a strong garlic flavor. It's not spicy at all. The regular steak is 100 times more spicy than this. So this is actually a good option if you kind of like the steak, but you don't like the fact that it's kind of spicy. The regular steak is kind of spicy for me. This is no real spice at all to it. It's just garlicky and has a nice like pepper taste. I don't really know how to describe guajillo peppers, but it has a nice kind of flavor to it that's very mild and strong on the garlic. I like it. I think that this flavor combination could be used on the chicken too, and it would be great. It's more of a problem, like I said, I have more of a problem with the actual meat itself than the seasoning. And the fact that it's $2 more than the regular steak really does bother me a lot. I don't know if that's a valid complaint necessarily, but it just seems like a ripoff that just because it's new, it's $2 more when I don't think it costs them anywhere near $2 or even like 20 cents more to make this compared to steak. I bet it costs them almost identically what it costs to make steak, but since it's new and people will buy it, that's what they do. So as much as I want, I think if the meat was quality cuts and they were trimmed and I didn't have to run into gristle and, you know, have that inconvenience, I would give it a 4 because it's a good solid, I think it's a good solid steak flavor. I like the flavor, I like the seasoning that they're using, but because I ran into those issues, I'm gonna give it a 3. I really find it, if you don't mind gristle and fat in your meat, then you know what, it's worth it. I guess it's worth giving a shot, but I really don't see any advantage to it over necessarily the regular steak if you already like that. Again, it's a different flavor, but is it worth paying $2 extra just to get something different that's not necessarily better? That's up to you. Maybe it's worth a shot trying. That's why I give it a 3. So if you're interested, go ahead and try it, but just know that like the steak, it has those issues, and depending on your location and all that stuff, you might get ripped off or not. At my location, I just really feel like I've been getting less and less every time I come, which sucks. I wish that they would pile it on a little bit more because they have competition. At least in Texas, there's a place called Freebirds, which is essentially the same concept, but better, you know, better customer service, better food, and bigger portions as far as I'm concerned, and better prices by just a little bit. The prices are not that much better. They're pretty similar, but I feel like when I go to Freebirds, I always leave satisfied. When I go to Chipotle, I always feel like I got, you know, ripped off. That's just my opinion. And then you have places like Qdoba also, which they don't have any around here, but I've been to many a Qdoba in my time. They have better queso. They're just, you know, they just seem like a better place. Chipotle feels like they rose to the top, you know, fast, like 10 years ago or whatever. And now they're just riding on that success, and they're not, you know, maintaining the quality that really got them to where they are. The reason everybody liked Chipotle in the beginning was because you got huge portions for a decent price, and it was, you know, kind of healthy, and people could, you know, stock up on their protein and stuff like that. But you just can't do that anymore. It's just more of, it's just less service for more money. That's what Chipotle is nowadays. So I'm going to stop complaining about Chipotle now. You know your own location. If you think that your location is fine and you like what they do, then go ahead and try out the Garlic Guajillo Steak if you feel like paying the extra money. But I really wouldn't recommend it to most people. I just think, you know, it's okay. It's good quality flavor, but not the best quality meat, and it's just not really worth going out of your way for or paying the extra for. So that's Chipotle's new Garlic Guajillo Steak, and I will see you next time.